Iqbal Mohamed.
Thank you, Ms. Lewell. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. And I want to extend my gratitude to my honourable friend, the member for Cheadle, for bringing this extremely important debate. As has been mentioned, I completely concur. I can't think of a more noble profession than that of humanitarian aid workers. These are the people that go into areas that everyone else is trying to flee from. Their work is driven by compassion, courage, and commitment to the most desperate and vulnerable. It is simply indispensable work. It is all the more shocking that conflict zones have become deadlier for those trying to help. Aid workers have been kidnapped, injured, and killed while performing their duties. Hospitals, paramedics, and aid convoys, clearly marked and protected under international law, have been deliberately targeted or caught in the crossfire. In some places, providing aid has become as dangerous as fighting in the war itself. The statistics speak for themselves. In Gaza, at least 418 aid workers have been killed since October 2023, almost all Palestinian, but including at least 8 internationals. At least 1,400 health workers have been killed, although there may be some overlap with the above number. Both health workers and aid workers, like the PRCS. And at least 42 aid workers have been killed so far in 2025. In Lebanon, Israel has killed over 200 aid workers. Last week, I attended a viewing of a documentary called Israel's War on Medics, where we learnt the tactic that was chillingly called double tap. The double tap is where an invading force will attack a building or a location and then wait until the aid workers, paramedics, and first responders arrive. And after they have arrived, they will then attack the same place again. And this has resulted in the death and maiming of many, many case workers. Some of these... of course I will give way.
I thank my old friend for giving way. He made a really interesting point, which rang an alarm bell in my mind, because what he's describing are the same tactics being used by the State of Israel, or at least its government, as were exhibited by the IRA back in the 1980s, whereby a bomb would be set off, and then once help had arrived, a secondary device would have been set off at the point of evacuation. Does he recognise this, as I do, as terrorism?
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and that is absolutely the classic definition of terrorism in my view. Some of these killings, like the murder of 14 emergency workers and a UN worker on the 23rd of March by Israel earlier this year, are reported, but many are not. The lives of these aid workers are casually and brutally murdered. In Gaza, the lives of the aid workers are casually and brutally taken by the Israeli regime, destroying the entire infrastructure of civilized life in Gaza, and especially the healthcare system. They are deliberately and have deliberately targeted the healthcare system as a tactic in war and to achieve their aims of ethnic cleansing. Their policy is to make life simply unlivable for the Palestinians. I'm not the only one who is struck by the contrast in the way this government responds to any humanitarian outrages in Ukraine, with calls for more sanctions and measures on Russia, and its apparent fatalism to when such attacks take place in Gaza. Apparently, for this government, some lives are more equal than others. This is not the case under international humanitarian law. A Palestinian life is equal to an Israeli life, which is equal to a Ukrainian life and every other life on this planet. International law considers all parties to a conflict are obligated to protect aid workers and ensure safe access to civilians in need. We must call for and provide greater accountability for those who target aid workers. We must support stronger security measures and better coordination in dangerous areas. And most of all, we must never normalize these attacks. To that end, I support the calls from the humanitarian charity Islamic Relief for the government to urge all parties to a conflict to comply with international law. This includes compliance with obligations relating to the passage of humanitarian supplies, equipment and personnel, and respecting and protecting aid workers. To lead efforts and strengthen commitments to protect aid workers and finalise the political declaration on the protection of humanitarian workers initiated by the Australia-led Ministers Group, and commit to concrete actions that go beyond rhetoric, including reporting mechanisms and monitoring of compliance, and to increase funding for international and local humanitarian organisations operating in conflict zones, ensuring they have resources and protection needed to deliver safety. I was absolutely flabbergasted when the government decided to slash aid budget to redirect those funds to purchasing more bombs, bullets, tanks and drones. And I would like to ask the Minister to share the impact assessment of this decision on the safety and security of aid workers, but also the increased risk of greater conflict and greater wars than if we actually support the people in need. Thank you.